With our product complete, we're now one step closer to publishing it on our website. The final step in the process is creating a configurator, which is what we'll use to display the product online. You can think of a configurator as a scene containing the lighting setup, cameras, and of course all the geometry and logic we created earlier. Before creating the configurator, let's take a moment to get organized. We'll go back to Home, and in the Projects area, I'm going to create a new project. It's essentially a folder that can contain subfolders with our configurators and rendering scenes. I'll call this one Rustic Chair. And let's create one more folder inside it and call this one Configurators. Now we're ready to create our first configurator. This brings us back to the familiar interface we've already been using. To keep things tidy, let's give the configurator a clear name as well. Rustic Chair Configurator. Excellent. Now we can start putting everything together. I'll start by adding the chair, which we can find in the Products tab. For the product to be displayed correctly, we need to add some lights. These are available in the Cameras and Lights tab. We have several options to choose from, but in most cases, the type of light you will want to use is an area light. Let's move it a little bit farther away so it doesn't intersect with the chair, and raise it slightly as well. Notice that the light is using this red mark as its pivot point. This acts as the light's target. That's handy because as the light moves around, it will continue pointing toward the target. At the moment, it's a little bit off, so let's move it closer to the chair. The exact lighting setup is entirely up to you, but I recommend using setups similar to those used by real photographers. The lights in the platform are physically accurate, so we can get great looking results that mimic the real world. We won't go into detail about building a studio setup in this tutorial, but a great place to start is by searching online for photography lighting setups. We can change the size of the light by adjusting the width and height, and we can also make it brighter or dimmer by adjusting the intensity. Let's make it a tiny bit stronger. Let's go ahead and add one more light and move it to the side. I'll also add one more above the chair. We could spend more time refining the lighting, but for the purposes of this tutorial, this setup is good enough. Now, let's add a camera. A camera determines how the configurator is framed and of course how the final image will be rendered, if we decide to do so. Setting up the camera works in much the same way as setting up the lights. We first position the target, then move the camera around until we find an angle we're happy with. We also have the ability to adjust the focal length and sensor size, along with a few additional controls designed specifically for the configurator. Before we adjust them, let's see how the configurator looks currently. If we click the Publish 3D button, we'll find the configurator URL. Copy, and in a new browser window, paste the URL. I'll keep both windows side by side so we can easily preview any changes we make. This is what users will see when the configurator is embedded on the website. As I'm moving the camera around, I'm noticing a couple of issues. We don't really need a full 360 rotation around the object, and we also don't really need to go underneath the object. I would also say that panning isn't particularly useful here. It doesn't really add anything to the experience. So let's see now how we go about fixing those things. For panning, we just need to disable the panning option. I'll save the changes, refresh the configurator, and now when I right-click and drag, the camera no longer pans. Now, let's limit the rotation around the object. We basically need to adjust the minimum and maximum values for the vertical and horizontal rotation. To limit the left and right rotation, we need to adjust the horizontal rotation values. Let's do minus 45 and 45 degrees. Hit save, refresh the configurator, and let's see what we've done. That looks good. Let's now limit the vertical rotation. I'll do 0 for the minimum value and 90 for the max value. Save, refresh, and let's check the result. Good. We can no longer move below the chair, but we can still rotate far enough to see the top. Excellent. Now, the last thing we need to adjust is the interface in the bottom left corner of the configurator. Instead of a drop-down, I would like the options to appear as icons. To change this, go to the Cameras and Lights tab, and then in the Camera and Properties section, select Scene Properties. There are plenty of settings available here, but for the interface, we're interested in two of them: UI style and icon size. The UI style setting gives us several options to choose from. In this case, icons is the one I'm looking for. For the icon size, let's go with something bigger. Hit save one more time and refresh the configurator. And that's exactly what I had in mind. Everything works as expected, but these black circles aren't particularly useful as icons. To fix that, we need to go into the object and add the icons there. This config group is where we'll add the icons for the cushion and no cushion option. And since the cushion is a separate product that was added to the chair product, we need to also go inside that and assign icons for the different cushion materials. I've already prepared all the icons, so the only thing left is upload them to the platform. Let's start with the chair config group. And now let's go into the cushion product and update the icons there as well. Now let's refresh the configurator and check that everything has been set up correctly. Yep, everything looks good. One easy way to create the visuals for these icons, at least for the geometry options, is to use the snapshot feature in the configurator. We can then import them into Photoshop or another image editor and crop and resize them as needed. These icons don't need to be high resolution, so I wouldn't go any larger than 50 pixels in either width or height. And that's it! The configurator is now ready to be added to our website.